Hi, I'm Little Pooh. I live in your radio. This is my dog, Sugar Bear. He lives in here, too.
And I'm William Cooper, and you're listening to The Hour of the Time.
And I'm Pooh. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. For a minute, you forgot you were going to do the pledge.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. You did very well.
You're welcome.
And I appreciate your help.
You're welcome.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Well, folks, I'll tell you, I've been all day long. Since the moment I got out of bed this morning until just a few moments ago, was taking care of my email on the internet. I don't know how to describe it. I can't not look at one because it might be something important, but invariably when I do, it's just more bullshit. And I get 2 posts of everything that there is, and sometimes 5 or 6. And it's not because people are sending me all this stuff. It's some peculiarity of the internet that just automatically sends me all this stuff. And every once in a while there are gems, and there are real intelligent people to talk with and exchange mail with, and there are really good posts and up-to-the-minute information and good research done by people who really want to help. But as I've told you before, the majority of it is nothing but a waste of my time and everybody else's time, and I'm not the only one who thinks that. If you are on the internet, you will see posts saying, "What is this crap? Why am I getting 5 or 6 messages of every message that's posted? Who are these people, and why are they tormenting me?" It's incredible. All day long. Email. And it's partly my fault because in our efforts to get out the newspaper, this issue, I didn't do my email for several days in a row. And with me, several days in a row is like monumental overload. Some people can skip 2 weeks and spend 5 minutes at the computer. If I skip one day, I'm going to be at the computer for hours. And but that's okay. You know, I'm just showing my humanity here. It's my turn to complain about the internet. Well, folks, I've said over and over on this broadcast that there are a lot of rotten apples out there in the police departments. The police officers have told me to my face that they carry throwaways and that they would plant them on somebody without any conscience, without a moment's hesitation, just to save themselves if they make a mistake or if they want to frame somebody. And, I get calls from these police officers say, "Oh, no, we're not really that way." Bullshit. A few of you, if you're a police officer and you're listening, are good people. Most police departments are corrupt to the core. And I'm not making an off-the-wall statement. This is the truth. Absolute truth. Most police officers turn their head if they're not participating and ignore it and do nothing about it. Most participate, especially if they've been on the force for a long period of time. I told you what the police officers in Los Angeles had told me, the ones that I knew when I lived in Los Angeles. And I got calls from police officers telling me, oh, no, if it's anybody, it's just maybe one or two. Well, have you read Furman's tape? Have you read the transcript of Detective Furman's tape? Did you hear the part on television a week or two ago where he was quoted as calling another police officer not a real police officer because he wouldn't plan a throwaway on a, quote, nigger, unquote, to frame him? Now, don't tell me Furman is just one police officer. Don't tell me that that doesn't pervade the Los Angeles police force, because I knew a lot of those people, and that's exactly what I heard from them. Not just Furman. You see, I knew a lot of them. I helped train the entire LAPD bomb squad to dive. I helped train them in underwater demolitions. So I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just spouting off. I also know police officers all over the place. A little city like St. John's tried to frame one of my people. Used his own daughter to do it. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If I get any more calls from police officers telling me that I'm way off base, I'm going to blow you out because you're liars. And that's all there is to it. And when I see you helping to straighten out this nation by starting in your own police departments and sheriff's departments to straighten them out, even if it means you lose your stupid job, then I'll hold you up as an example to the nation. But until then, no. You're part of the problem. And if you don't like it, turn off your radio and go to bed. You know I'm telling the truth. You know damn well I'm telling the truth. And I'm sick of it. Sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of reading the letters that I get from people who are persecuted by police. I'm sick and tired of hearing about people like Joe Love in Indianapolis who was murdered by police. I sit on the edge of my chair every day waiting for something to happen to Linda Thompson and other patriot leaders perpetrated by police. Who get their intelligence from people like the anti-defamation liars. Shysters like the Southern Poverty Law Center. Liars like Morris Dees. And call legitimate people who love the Constitution, love liberty, and love the United States of America terrorists. And go to meetings held by your police lieutenants and your police sergeants and sit there quiet while they describe the patriots in this country as lunatics. And the reason you don't say anything is because you haven't got the balls. You're afraid you'll lose your job. You're a bunch of wimp cowards. And one of these days, you're going to have to face the patriots in this country because you haven't got the guts to do what is right. And you haven't got the guts to stand on the side that is right. And that is the truth. And frankly, my dear Scarlett, I don't give a damn whether you like it or not. I'm going to live my life by the truth, and you can lie to yourself every day if you want to. There's going to be a reckoning. Americans will do everything in their power to prevent bloodsheds in the streets as long as they possibly can. But there's going to be a day when every single good person in this country is going to draw a line. And once they draw that line, there is no stepping backward. I have devoted my entire life to preventing this. And the very people who are supposed to uphold the law are murdering and ripping the Constitution to shreds on a daily basis, breaking down doors with no warrants, confiscating property, killing people, arresting people, framing people. The United States has more people in prison per capita than any other nation in the world. So if you're a police officer, don't call me and tell me how lily pure you are. I'll blow you out. I'll blow you out so hard, it's not even funny. I will make you sweat. I have reams of documentation here that I just took off the internet today about police all over this country, if you want to know what got me riled up. I was sifting through all the bullshit to find out that we're not safe. Not from the criminals. We're not safe from the police. I'm going to take your calls tonight. If anybody got their copy of Veritas, I'd like to know what you think of it. I'd like to hear from you if you got your copy of Veritas. I'd also like to hear from people who know what the police are really doing around this country. I want to hear what's going on in your area with the police and the sheriff. Have you heard about the great paintball ambush? We'll talk about that too. Incredible happened in the USA, perpetrated by police. Don't go away. I'll be right back. For those of you who may be new listeners or may have forgotten, the number to call is 520-333-4578. That's 520-333-4578. Make sure when you call that you got something intelligent to say, because I'm not in a good mood tonight.
Dragnet. Their job to enforce the law and preserve the safety of decent citizens. Decent citizens. The story is true. The story is true. The story is Dragnet. Dragnet.
I carry a badge. My name's Roddy. My name's Roddy. I carry a badge. My name's Roddy. I carry a badge.
Well, we're going to take your calls tonight, folks. The number is 520-333-4578. 520-333-4578. I understand we were off the air for a few minutes. I don't know how long. I don't know what you missed. But I want to hear from people who received their copy of Veritas. If there's anybody out there who received their copy of Veritas, I'd like to hear from you. I'd also like to hear from people about what the police and the sheriffs are doing in your part of the country to screw the Constitution. We know they're doing it. So let's hear from you. Let's hear how they're doing it. Let's hear who's doing it. If you got your copy of Veritas, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you think of it. This latest edition, issue number 6. Good evening. You're on the air.
Wow, how you doing, Bill?
Pretty good.
Oh, man. I can't believe I'm talking to Bill Cooper. This is Clayton from St. Louis.
Hello, Clayton.
I've been listening to your program. Find it very informative, educational, and most of all, accurate. It's an important source for me. You know what they're doing here in St. Louis? It's being reported in some alternative media is the police, especially in the city, are conducting gun sweeps through a lot of neighborhoods, especially, the projects. And they're just going in, and they're just, without a warrant, without warning, nothing, just going in there.
Oh, can't be. These are the guys that call me and tell me they're all good guys. They support the law. They wouldn't do anything against the Constitution.
They got the full support of City Hall and supposedly...
Oh, but these are America's sweethearts. Oh, they would never do anything like that.
Yeah, and these law enforcement officers saying that actually the people that they go in and take not only their guns, but supposedly drugs, too. They said that, the majority of the people that they're doing this to are in agreement with it. I mean, this is what they're reporting here on the news, the local news.
Yeah, and the militia blew up the federal building in Oklahoma City, and the Branch Davidians were some kind of Satan's representative on earth because David Koresh went to bed with a few women besides the one he was married to. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Vicky Weaver was a threat to Lon Horiuchi. I mean...
Yeah, she was going to bite his ear off from 150 yards away.
To me it just seems like, the U.S. government has declared war on the American citizen.
It's not just U.S. government. It's your local police officers. It's your local sheriff's department. It's the whole bunch.
Have you heard about this bill, H.R. 1544, that outlaws what they call paramilitary organizations, which could be construed as two people who have weapons, who might be what the government considers anti-government. They could be construed as a paramilitary organization. Basically, it's going against, the militias that have formed. Have you heard about that?
No, they can't. Militia is authorized under the law, the traditions, and the history of the country. The militia is not a paramilitary organization. The militia is a military organization.
Well, you and I are in agreement on that, but of course the government will see it otherwise when that law goes.
Also, no, the Supreme Court won't. The Supreme Court has to back the militia. Now, it might be a fight getting up to the Supreme Court, and it might be another kind of a fight if they ever come against the militia, because I'm telling you right now, there's going to be a line drawn in the sand beyond which to go is going to be absolutely suicide for everybody. And once they start, if they start, trying to round up militia leaders, I'm afraid that's where I draw the line. Number one, I'm a leader, and I'm not going to go. And number two, I'm not going to let them take the other leaders of the only wall against slavery that's left in this country, and that's the militia members who are willing to fight in defense of the Constitution for the United States of America.
Well, yeah, I'm a member of the 1st Missouri Volunteer Militia here, and we go on monthly exercises, and so I'm looking at this bill with interest. But in Ohio, it occurred about a month or two ago. I guess it was a state policeman pulled over a militia member in Ohio, and he happened to be a pastor of the state militia, and this cop just opened fire on him and killed him.
Yeah, I know.
And, well, I'm pretty sure you reported on that. Of course, the police...
Yeah, I did. His name is Hill.
Yeah, that's right. And the policeman tried to say that the guy was going to, open fire on him, but what the cop did know is that there were people watching this incident. And,
yeah, three witnesses.
Right, yeah. So, I kind of see it, like you're saying, not just...
Oh, but they wouldn't do this. These are police officers. They're sworn to uphold the law and protect the citizenry. They're sworn to protect and defend the Constitution for the United States of America. These are honorable men and women.
That's Orwellian newspeak, I think, or something like that. That's what they're pumping us full of, but then their actions betray them. But I don't know, Bill. I'm getting to the point where I'm really getting paranoid. Is this a natural reaction for me, or is it unnatural?
No, paranoia is perfectly natural when you know somebody's trying to get you. Nothing wrong with it.
Okay, well,
paranoia is only bad when you know somebody's trying to get you when nobody is.
Okay, well then this is natural, and I shouldn't feel alarmed that I'm feeling these reactions all the time.
No, it's a good thing for your own self-preservation. It's sort of like an early warning thing to start looking over your shoulder.
Okay, well hey, Bill, I enjoy your show, and keep up the great work.
Thank you. Oh, by the way, do you get Veritas?
No, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get it because, I've been getting the Spotlight, but I want to get the Veritas.
Well, you better, because you'll never read in Spotlight what we print in Veritas.
Okay.
Never, ever, not in 100 million years.
Well, I'm pretty... yeah, I know. Spotlight's okay, but I just wonder about...
You know how Spotlight started out?
No.
It was the newspaper for a communist youth group, which Carto headed many years ago. Valentine was also mixed up in the Communist Party. You ever read Hegel? You know about the dialectic? You know how it works?
Yeah, two ends against each other.
Yeah, but the same people control both sides.
Yeah, they control both sides, yeah.
Yeah, so that they can make sure that the outcome is what they want it to be. You wait and see who ends up in the stockades and who's outside holding the keys.
How do I get Veritas, Bill?
Well, you know something? I thought this was going to happen in the next issue, but Mike did it in this issue, so I didn't have any warning and didn't prepare people and didn't tell them. So it's going to be a big surprise. We cut the prices literally in half, and it wasn't supposed to happen until issue number 7. But the ad is in issue number 6, so we have to honor that ad. So as soon as you get the copy in your hands, those prices take effect. It's $27 for now for 24 issues. And the only reason we can do this is because of the tremendous support we had from those who became charter subscribers right from the beginning, and who helped in our efforts and paid the price that we initially had to use for subscribers or for subscriptions in order to be able to deliver those tremendous number of free copies to every desk in Washington. And they're not sent through the mail; they're hand delivered to every office, to every desk in Washington, all the movers and shakers. So while I'm at it, I want to thank everybody who were charter subscribers. Because of you, the paper is going to be a success. Success is assured now. There are no financial difficulties now. We're not making any big profit, but the paper is going to support itself thanks to all of you. And thanks to all of you, we were able to lower our subscription rates and prices. Prices for single current issue is $3 now. So if you just want issue number 6, send us $3 postpaid, and we'll send it off to you. If you want a subscription for 24 issues, it's $27, and you'll see the rest of the prices when you get the paper. But this came as a surprise to me because I thought it wasn't going to happen until issue number 7. So, but it's happened, and so we'll back it, even though it's an issue early. We will honor the ad.
You got an 800 number on that?
No, but we've got an address. Make your check or money order out to Veritas, spelled V as in Victor, ERITAS,
Okay.
and send it to P.O. Box 3390, St. John's, Arizona, 85936. That's Veritas, P.O. Box 3390, St. John's, Arizona, 85936.
I'll send you a Probably a money order. I don't have a bank account. I'm outside the system, so to speak.
That's good. Send us a money order.
I'll send you a money order. It'll be in the mail tomorrow.
Great.
God bless.
God bless you, and thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Number is 520-333-4578. I'd like to hear from you, especially if you've received your issue of Veritas. Good evening. You're on the air.
Yes. Good morning, Bill. May I ask a question concerning the satellite receiving system?
Sure.
Yes. I'd like to speak with someone who could give me more technical information. I'm sincerely interested. I've tried calling your research center several times. And
we don't have anybody who has more technical information. We're not satellite salespeople. We're just doing this because so many people wanted to know how to get on satellite. We put this together originally for radio stations who wanted to downlink the Patriot broadcasts on Galaxy 6. And we decided to go ahead and offer it to the public.
Yes, you had Gary, what's his last name, Bourgeois on the air?
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't have a guest on and take calls, too. We're not a great big radio station.
Okay, what is the current cost on tapes for if I want to order a tape of that program you had?
Well, that would be the best thing for you to do. It's $10 if you're not a member, $8 if you are.
Yeah.
Just specify the date and the subject, and make all checks or money orders payable to Annie, A-N-N-I-E.
Got it.
And send them to the Intelligence Service, Post Office Box 1420, Sholo, Arizona, 85901. That's P.O. Box 1420, Sholo, Arizona, 85901.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
I wish we had some experts here, but we don't, folks. We're just folks like you, and we're not in that business. We just did it to help you out. If you want to take advantage of it, fine. If you want to quibble over technicalities and specifications and whether or not this thing has 16 ohms or 24, I can't help you. Good evening. You're on the air.
Good evening, William. It takes me about a half hour to make it through a typical issue of the Houston Chronicle. I think the Veritas is going to take me several hours at the very least.
Did you get your copy yet?
Received a copy today, yes, sir. And the article on the IRS seems extremely comprehensive. It's just exactly what I need to show to people trying to explain why we shouldn't have to pay income tax.
Were you shocked by what you read?
No, I've been listening to you for too long. I understand what's going on.
Yeah. Did you find anything there that you didn't know before?
It's going to take me a couple hours to go through the article piece by piece and digest it. I've glanced over it, but it looks very, very well put together. I thank you for it.
Well, thank you.
Regarding what's going on with the police, we had back on July 23rd in Houston, a DEA agent was having a pre-wedding party with his friends. They tried to force their way into a topless club. The owner of the club said there'll be a $5 cover charge. The DEA agent said, no, I don't need to pay a cover charge. Whereupon the DEA agent whipped out his gun and began shooting. And
oh, no. These are people who protect us. They would never do anything like that.
William, this incident has demonstrated that at least this man, I think he must be typical of the DEA agents. I think they purposely seek out murderers to hire. This man, witnesses said the DEA agent that did the shooting, let's see, his name was Pete J. Sinclair, S-I-N-C-L-A-I-R, Pete J. Sinclair, DEA agent. So he shot the club owner. He followed the club owner through plastic sheeting into a room under construction and fired several more shots. No one is sure how many shots Sinclair fired. At least 6 hit Fotopoulos, the club owner. Like the other witnesses, Fotopoulos said the shots were not rapid fire, but were slow and methodical.
Well, yep, that's the signs of a murderer, all right. Did you hear what they did in Washington, D.C. when they had the big convention there in memory of fallen officers?
No, I did not.
They wrecked hotels. They attacked women. They forced their way into rooms where people were sleeping and just literally terrified hundreds of people. tore the place to pieces. These were police officers from all over the country. People who protect us. People who are sworn to protect and defend the Constitution. The people who are screwing and tearing up the Constitution on a daily basis. And I'm sick of it.
I'm sick of it too. This DEA agent, fortunately, someone found a gun and fired back at him. The man lost a kidney, but his condition now is unknown as he was transferred from Ben Cobb to Methodist Hospital under an alias about a week into his recovery.
Yeah, and he had to be under an alias because they sure don't want him testifying in any trial against police officers now, do they?
Well, I would think any red-blooded doctor and nurse that knew who he was would have seen that his hospitalization was extremely brief.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what's going on here in Houston. Of course, we've had several incidents. We had, I believe, for the second time in a row, a drunken police officer pursued a woman, a Negro. At night, stopped her, and after an extensive chase, and murdered her on the side of the road. And he was convicted twice, and he's out on, I think, I don't know, bail or whatever, or else he was out on good behavior after serving 3 months. And it was well established that he was drunk.
He's out on good behavior, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I wonder how many people he put in jail for years because they were drunk.
Well, all you've got to have is a badge and be drunk, and you've got a license to murder is being demonstrated, has been demonstrated 2 or 3 times within the past year in Houston.
Let me tell you, my friend, and you are my friend, they don't need to be drunk. They're proving every day that all they need is the badge.
The alcohol lowers the inhibition, so their real nature comes out for sure when they're drunk, but their nature's there, drunk or not, is what you're saying, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're being hired now according to a psychological profile that ensures that they are not going to question, that they're going to carry out orders, and that they have the psychological makeup to use brute force. What do you think? What do you think about that?
I'm glad our God is stronger than than the God they serve.
Yeah. I only know right now one truly good police officer. Only know one. His name is Dave Mann. He's the one who made the tape about I Had a Dream.
Yes.
That's him. He's a personal friend of mine. And until just a couple days ago, he lived very close to where I live, and he's moved. He was persecuted by his fellow officers in the Arizona Highway Patrol because he believes in the Constitution.
I can believe that. Your broadcast, or you were knocked off satellite right after you said the Furman tape show.
Oh,
so
well,
we missed an awful lot.
Tomorrow night I'll play the whole intro to tonight's broadcast again, just so whoever knocked me off doesn't get the satisfaction to think that he's thinking that he stopped anything from being disclosed, whoever it was.
I had sent you a excerpt, Xerox, out of a book by Bill Jordan. I don't know if you remember it. It was on the subject of throw down guns. Bill Jordan was Assistant Chief Patrol Inspector of the U.S. Border Patrol. And I sent you, looking at here, a copy of about half a dozen pages out of his book.
What was the premise? And can you make it real short? What was it?
Okay, he says the subject of alibi guns. He tells about how everyone carries an alibi gun, and he tells...
That's exactly what all the police officers have been telling me, and these guys keep calling me and telling me I'm full of it.
He talks about an inquest in which a Border Patrol officer encountered a man in the middle of a bridge over a large irrigation canal. The suspect fired 3 times and missed with all 3 shots. And so later, the coroner's jury, one of the jurymen told Jordan privately and in strict confidence that it was the worst case of justifiable homicide he had ever seen. For in addition to the previously mentioned gun, this is Jordan's throwdown gun, there have been 5 more picked up by the magnet, all positively identified as having belonged to the deceased, and each with 3 shots fired.
Yeah.
Anyway, that provides more or less incontrovertible evidence that throwdown guns are a reality.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night. 520-333-4578 is the number, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to call and get your 2 cents in. Also, you ever hear of a whole family, including a 4-year-old girl, being gassed in a hotel room because you had an argument in a restaurant? You ever hear of that, folks? Well, it happened to me and my family. They tried very hard to get me to hit somebody, and I just absolutely refused. So what they do? They tried to break down the hotel room door, and when they found out I wasn't going to let them in without a warrant, they gassed the whole family, including my 4-year-old daughter. Don't tell me about how nice the police are. It's bullshit. The police today are just as much the enemy as we always thought the Russians were. In fact, the police today are doing in this country what we never believed could happen here and only thought could happen in the Soviet Union. Good evening. You're on the air.
You think your advice is the Constitution, but if you get off the air, that would be the solution. We won't hear you no more, Looney Cooper. You're full of bullshit.
Thank you, Scott. Didn't think we knew who you were, did you? That's little poopy diaper Scott, folks. We know exactly who he is because, you see, he forgets about caller ID. So, do it again and I'll tell him your last name, you little poopy diapered, puke-faced scumbag. Good evening. You're on the air.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
A charter subscriber to Veritas. I'm proud to be so.
Wonderful.
One word sums up this last issue, and that would have to be dynamite.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations on your baby girl. The next day following the birth of your daughter, I was blessed with a beautiful 8-pound granddaughter.
Oh, well, congratulations to you, too.
Just barely 24 hours apart. It was quite a thrill. I enjoyed Pooh. Listen to you every night faithfully. God bless you. I pray for all of you. And a message to your listeners, pray for America.
Well, thank you. And yes, we all do need to pray for America. Very hard, because it's going downhill on a roller coaster. Things are escalating to the point where it's absolutely beyond insanity.
Yes, I agree. And I think it's happening in every little small town and hamlet, and as well as large cities. And the things I hear is just mind-boggling. Never thought I'd ever witness it in my lifetime.
Well, I never did either. And I thought when I started my little mission here to be a messenger and wake the people that they would have awakened a long time before this, but who knows?
Have you had any reactions come out of this last issue of Veritas from the District of Criminals?
Not yet. No, they haven't. Probably only a few of them have received it so far. But don't worry, there'll be some kind of a reaction, I can tell you. What did you think? Have you read the article yet?
Yes, I have read it. It was very, very good. And I can tell your other listeners it'll take several hours to wade through all that. But I thought it was very appropriate in the timing, particularly because of the Randy Weaver hearings and everything that's going on. And if this doesn't help bring some of that to the knees, I don't know what it'll take.
Well, I have a feeling what it'll take. I dread it and don't want it, but if it happens, I'll be there right on the front lines.
Oh, well, God's still in control, and that's the only solace we have. We just pray His will be done.
Well, I think He's waiting for us to make some kind of a decision to find out what His will is going to be. That's really what I think. I don't think things are fated from the beginning at all. I think we do have a free will choice. I think there are many examples in the Bible of when things were supposed to happen, and because people did something other than what they were expected to do, God spared them. So
Right. We're just suffering the consequences of our actions.
That's right. I've said many times, if you want to know what's wrong with America, go in the bathroom and look in the mirror.
That's right. God is a God of justice, fairness.
Yes.
But he's also a God of judgment. And so many of your churches today, all they preach is, God is love.
All they preach is, I'm 501c3 and I want your money.
Yeah.
That's what they really preach.
But he was really a God of discipline and judgment as well.
Well, this isn't a religious broadcast, so let's not get off into that. But,
no, that's true. But I know that you do have a deep and abiding faith. I don't think you'd be doing what you're doing if you didn't.
That's true. I would have walked away from it a long time ago.
Oh, bless your family.
Thank
you. Just a big kiss.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. 520-333-4578. Good evening. You're on the air.
Bill.
Yes.
Enjoy your show when you're not being jammed.
Thank you.
Calling you from Maryland.
Oh, the People's Republic just made a treaty with the United Nations.
Oh, yeah. No, wasn't that lovely?
Oh, it's unconstitutional. Have you read the Constitution lately?
Oh, absolutely.
No state can enter into any agreement, treaty, or anything with any foreign country or other state or anything else.
Or form a compact.
That's right.
Well, he's a governor that's walking a fine line between fraud and treason anyway.
Well, when he did that, he committed treason. He did something actively against the Constitution for the United States of America and in support of our enemy's world government.
Well, you got time for me to tell you about his election?
No, I don't think we got time for that, but he has
committed. It's questionable.
He's committed treason, and everybody in Maryland should be telling him that.
Well, we got a real sheeple here. What I wanted to ask you is there a particular good time for me to call the research center during the day?
No, there never is.
I have warm body.
Oh, yeah, you can call Veritas and talk to Mike.
I'd like to get some information mailed to me about your radio and the satellite dish because I'm trying to convince a couple.
We don't have anything like that. I keep trying to tell you.
No, just a listing of what the equipment is.
We're not in that business. For us to go down and make out some kind of a catalog or a price list and all that kind of stuff and get it printed out, send it out to everybody, puts us in the satellite business. And we're not in it, and I don't want to be in it.
Okay, he can tell me on the phone, though.
Yeah, he can tell you what he knows.
I've got two people up in Baltimore, I think, interested in setting one up.
What I would suggest is that you buy the tape that night that we did it because everything is on the tape.
Now, the problem is that quite often you get wiped out, and I miss about...
No, the tape. Excuse me, the tape. You can order the tape from us. Stereo, hi-fi, studio quality. There is no jamming on the tape.
Well, that's fine, but I don't remember the date. That's the problem. Anyway, I'll call and try to figure out what I can get.
Oh, go away. I'm tired of you penny-waste patriots who couldn't spend $10 to help support us in our effort. You want a deal. Well, go somewhere else and get your deal. Good evening. You're on the air.
Yeah, Bill. I sent you some stuff over the mail. I don't know if you got it yet or not. I'm John from Houston.
Uh-huh.
And some of the things that I sent you was a federal judge had ruled the extradition law unconstitutional. This was from the Houston Chronicle. It was a Scripps Howard story that came out September 3rd, that a federal judge has ruled that the 147-year-old U.S. extradition law is unconstitutional. So who knows, maybe from here there won't be any more of those John Demjanjuk fiascos that we witnessed.
Well, it's only unconstitutional if you're a United States citizen or if you're a citizen of a state. The Supreme Court ruled many years ago that nobody can take away your citizenship.
Yeah. Now, a couple of other...
That's really what that ruling was all about.
Well, what this other fellow from Houston forgot to tell you, a very interesting thing happened on Channel 26, which is a local Fox television affiliate here last week. They showed that our local jackbooted thugs, the feds, had opened up a new training center just north of Houston near the town of Conroe, about 30 miles north of town. And it showed them flying in there with their black helicopters and the black hooded masks and all that, and they're jumping off the helicopter with machine guns, and they're engaging their targets. And then these other two clowns dressed like Capone-era hoods pull up in a fully restored 1930s era automobile with Tommy guns, and they start blasting away at their targets. It's a big joke to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically insanity on their part. But I called up a couple of the local talk show hosts here on KPRC radio are finally coming around to seeing that what happened to the people in Waco as well as what happened to the people up in Ruby Ridge was nothing short of murder. You know, I've been harping on this thing ever since that happened.
Absolutely. They set out to kill those people.
Oh, absolutely, because the two lawyers who were going to defend the Davidians, Dick DeGuerin and Jack Zimmerman, would have cleaned the clocks of any of those worthless federal prosecutors. These guys are top-notch attorneys.
Wait till you read Veritas this time. You're going to find out how much of a scam it is, how crooked these people really are, how you've been ripped off for your whole life, how they are nothing but crooks, criminals. They are actually participating in constructive fraud on a massive scale.
Let me tell you what else is happening here locally. There's been a lot of, I think, CFR press about Colin Powell running for the presidency and all this and that. Well, all these sheeple were calling into the talk show today, and then I called in, and they were saying, oh, how wonderful these so-called conservatives that Colin Powell would be, and I reminded these idiots that Colin Powell is a CFR member, and I gave them the address and the phone number of the CFR up in New York if they wanted to contact them to verify this. And I pointed out what Barry Goldwater had to say in his book with no apologies about the CFR and the Trilateral Commission and what their ultimate goal is. And so basically I threw a lot of ice water on a lot of idiot sheeple who were thinking that as the media was cultivating them the same way they did with Jimmy Carter back in 1976, that, why he's a good old middle American farm boy and he's a, good old peanut farmer and this and that, when in fact it's just another one of a series of Rockefeller stooges that the media is grooming us for as being our savior for the next presidential election when you and I both know better.
Yeah, there are no saviors, and all candidates lead to world government. I don't care who it is.
Oh, and also another thing I sent you, this was in a brown envelope, and I figured you should have gotten it by today. And there was a little clipping in the Chronicle also back in August 25th that the World Health Organization said that the Ebola virus epidemic was over. Now, isn't that convenient? It said an epidemic of the Ebola virus that killed nearly 250 people in Zaire is over, the World Health Organization announced Thursday. Ebola is transmitted through bodily fluids and secretions and causes massive internal bleeding, diarrhea, and vomiting. The cause of the disease is still unclear.
Oh, no, it's not unclear. It always comes from a monkey.
Like they did with the AIDS virus.
That's right. It comes from a monkey.
Sure. And
somebody out there in the jungle is kissing monkeys.
Well,
right?
What they want us to think, that's how 7 million people contracted AIDS overnight. But there was a doctor who appeared on Johnny Carson's show years ago when he was the head of the Tonight Show. I forgot the man's name. He had a Jewish-sounding name, super guy. And this guy pointed out that the AIDS virus began when the World Health Organization deliberately inoculated 7 million Africans with infected smallpox virus.
I wrote that in my book. Not only Africans, but homosexuals in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and I forget where else.
This doctor was a regular guest on Carson's show, but after that visit, I never saw or heard of the man again.
Probably didn't. I got to let you go.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks for calling. 520-333-4578. Oh, and by the way, folks, the little poopy diapers, his name really isn't Steve. I'm just trying to teach him a lesson without having to hurt him. But his name does start with an S, and he knows who he is. He knows I know who he is, and we know his last name. And if it happens again, we'll tell you his whole name, which begins with an S. And, I'm just tired of little poopy diapers. He has a grudge. He's a socialist, puke-faced, dirty-bottomed, scumbag, little child. Good evening. You're on the air.
Good evening, Bill. It's the Birdman from Brooklyn. How you doing?
Good.
Good. A couple of things I wanted to tell you. Anne Rice has a new book out that, in my opinion, comes straight out of the mysteries. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Memnoch the Devil.
No. Yeah, wait a minute. I did. I saw that book.
Okay. I have a copy of it. As soon as my mom's done reading it, I'll shoot it out to you. You probably won't want to read the whole book, but there's a lot of stuff that, to me, you remember you were talking about how the socialists, good is bad and bad is good and light is dark and dark is light and all that.
Right.
Really switches everything around, and it gives a good microcosm as to why people are so confused in a Luciferian way. You might be very interested in it.
Okay, great.
Okay, another thing, speaking of the mysteries, I wanted to ask you is, how do I get it? You talked about your mystery series a couple of times, and I really have to eventually buy that. How do I get a copy of that?
You need to. I don't even know the price. To tell you the truth, you need to, because I don't handle any of that stuff. But you need to call and talk to Annie, or else write to Annie and ask for a price list and an updated tape list, and she'll send it right along to you.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's got to be worth it, because I have a couple of reruns from that series.
I think for non-members it's around $285. For members it's less than that, but I can't remember the price, and I'm not sure about the $285.
Right. Okay, well, like I said, that's something I'm definitely going to be saving my pennies for. Also, you notice the damage control on the Randy Weaver situation within the local media?
Oh, they're trying hard, but it's not going to work. All of this stuff has backfired on them so bad that they're really desperate.
Now, let me ask you this: is it possible that it's all part of the dialectic that they're actually allowing some of this to come through as part of their damage control? Because it seems to me, I've been talking about Weaver to everybody for the last year and a half, basically actually 2 years. I think it's been since you started broadcasting it, and I started doing the research in it. And nobody ever heard of it. The news never even covered it.
That's right.
All of a sudden, my father called me up, who I was telling you about the last time I had spoken to you, and he was like, Paul, they had a Randy Weaver special today, and he was amazed I was amazed at the forthrightness with which they actually covered it.
Mm-hmm.
And also with Nichols, I mean, they actually, Dateline did a special on Nichols, on his farm, on his ranch, whatever he called it. And they just let him talk. They didn't interrupt him. They didn't cut him. They didn't edit him. They didn't bleep him. No little mind control propaganda games that they normally do, like, government hating, anti-Semite or whatever it is that they just let this guy talk. I think they're getting desperate. I think they're trying now to appease the people like us who have been saying all of this for so long.
Well, the news media lost their credibility, and they may be trying to gain a bit of it back. They'll never gain it back as far as I'm concerned. The media is not credible anymore. They're just a pack of liars. They are the Communist News Network, and you can't trust anything that they ever say. And I think that they know that, and I think they're trying very hard to instill in the people some confidence in the news media. But once you give them that confidence, they'll just go back to the same old way, and they're still the same old way. It's just the appearance that they're, it's all smoke and mirrors, and it's baloney. So don't fall for it, not even for a second.
Well, it's like the guy who habitually beats his wife. Every time he does it, he swears that he's never going to do it again, and she believes him.
That's right.
Well, that's really what happens. Also, every time I pass the Federal Depository Library, I'm assuming they're located in the Federal Reserves, right? In the Federal Reserve buildings, or?
No, they can be in any building, just about. You never know where they're going to be, but you have to look it up.
Right, because I've been reading a lot of, I think I mentioned it before, I've been reading a lot of the books that you had told me to read, and now I'm ready to actually start going into the Federal Depository. And the stupid question I have to ask you probably laugh at me, is where do I start in terms of the Federal Depository material? I already know what I've been learning and researching, but I really need to now just start tying this stuff together coherently.
Well, you have to pick a subject to tie together. I mean, you can't just go in there and start reading at random, and you have to be looking for something. And what I would suggest that you start with is the United Nations, and once you've satisfied yourself that you really know what that's really all about, then you can go to the Disarmament Agency and the Disarmament Treaty, Public Law 87 or 87-297, and from there, you'll find your way once you start to understand how it works.
Right.
And if you'll weave your way through all of these treaties and laws and United States Code and statutes at large and federal regulations and the Congressional Record and the Federal Register, and remember what the librarians are there for. They're there to help you, and they will. And you want to make friends with the librarians, and every day that you go in, bring them something, because their life is pretty boring most of the time, and people, make demands on them and don't really treat them right sometimes. So, take them a bouquet of flowers and treat them like decent people, and you'd be surprised what they can help you dig out.
Yeah, because you know what it is? I'm a good researcher, but I've mostly researched, aside from the Patriot stuff that I've been doing now, I've mostly researched basic sciences because I think I told you I'm in my chiropractic college, and I have to do so much research in terms of that area. And I know I can apply that to what I've been, in fact, I've proved it because I've been buying all the books and everything. And I'm in a position now where I'm really ready to start going deeper than what I've been doing now, and I'm really happy that I'm at that point now. It's like I already know what's going on, and now it's just a matter of just proving it to myself.
Yeah, so. And don't forget to try to put some of it in the front of the noses of other people.
That's what I've been doing, yeah. And that's all due to you, by the way. And because you're a bold voice of truth. You go out of your way, and you just you stand out, and you don't care what people think, and you've put yourself on the line, you've put your family on the line, you've put your way of life on the line. And that's an example. That's a shining example to all of us. And I know I, for one, and I'm sure many of your listeners, aside from Jerko that called you a little while ago, I really appreciate that.
His name starts with an S, and I won't say it tonight. But if he calls again tomorrow night, I'm going to tell everybody his whole name. He lives in the state of Michigan, by the way.
These idiots don't even have the intelligence to privatize their line before they prank people.
Well, that's because they're so smart,
See, the funny thing is this is what a lot of people have a lot of trouble dealing with the issues that you're talking about. And actually, because of the profession I'm going into, it made it very easy because I've always felt persecuted from the medical profession. I mean, anything that's out, you've said this many times, anything that's outside of the jurisdiction of surgery and drugs is completely blasted by the AMA and by affiliate organizations. And so I've dealt with this for so long that when I started listening to the Patriot broadcast, I started realizing, it's even deeper than that. That's just actually a microcosm. And that made a lot of sense. A couple of the broadcasts you did on medicine, I couldn't believe how well versed a lot of your guests are, and you are on the medicine aspect of things. That actually you sent me to Yale Medical Library, and a couple of times I actually had to go there. But once again, thanks a lot for everything. And that other, I don't know, did you get that other bird that I sent you, the red, white, and blue one yet?
Not yet, but we haven't been to the post office in about 3 days.
Okay, no problem. Well, when you get that, enjoy. I sent you a couple extra wings and tails and stuff in case they don't last forever. So
great. We're running out of time. I got to let you go.
Okay, thanks a lot, man.
Good night. Okay, folks, that just about does it. Good night. God bless you all. If you're a police officer, stop it. Stand up. Even if you lose your job, it's not worth it. Someday you're going to have to face us. And you better be clean.
Dragnet, their job to enforce the law and preserve the safety of decent citizens. Decent citizens. Decent citizens.
I'm William Cooper, and you're listening to the Hour of the Time. And you should be listening to us with much better sound quality tonight because the Comrex decoder at both ends is finally working. It took all this time. And I was listening to the intro in shortwave. It sounds a lot better than it did last night and the week before and the week before that. So drop me a line and let me know what you think about the better quality of the sound. Now, last night I told you that I would play the beginning of last night's broadcast over again. I'm not going to do that because time is precious. And if you really want to know what was missing in that 5 minutes, then you can send for the tape. Basically, it was just me telling you a lot about what I think about the current state of affairs in, quote, law enforcement, end quote. And I put it in quotes because it's not law enforcement anymore, it's people persecution. The people who are supposed to be enforcing the law, ladies and gentlemen, 9 times out of 10 don't even know what the hell the law is. They went to some briefing when they got hired. They went to some little boot camp where they ran around in circles and went to classes and somebody told them what they're supposed to do. And so they go out and pretend like they're enforcing the law when really they're enforcing what their supervisor told them to enforce, and they don't know diddly squat about the law. And if that makes you mad, tough. I'd say I put it a little stronger, but I understand that there's some nice ladies out there listening tonight. So I'm not going to do that. But for all you big macho he-men in law enforcement, I got to tell you something. We're sick and tired of you turning your head when you know that your fellow officers are doing wrong, when you know that they're breaking the law, when you know that they are, in fact, tearing up the Constitution and throwing it in the trash can. And many of you are helping them do it, and if you're not helping them do it, you are an accomplice simply because you don't speak up or say anything about it. And I don't care if it costs you your job. If your job is worth so much that you have to cost the rest of us our liberties and our freedoms and our protections under the Constitution, then to hell with your job.
Dragnet, their job to enforce the law and preserve the safety of decent citizens. Decent citizens.
kidding about that? Almost never. Almost never. 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 My next Friday. Am I kidding about that? Almost never. Almost never.
Oh, thank God it's Friday. I can't stand it.
Nice guys, huh? You really think so? Well, folks, you haven't got the slightest idea what's going on across this country. You ever heard about paintball? It's where these guys get together and they have these special little pistols that they shoot little blobs of paint. And they go out in the woods and they have contests, and it's a national sport. I mean, they have championship bouts and everything. Well, some of them were traveling all over the United States, promoting their sport of paintball and attending tournaments and all that kind of thing. You're not going to believe what happened to them, and you're not going to believe the cover-up that's going on. And when you hear about it, I want you to write your congressmen, I want you to write your senators, I want you to demand that the enemies of all of us, these Gestapo, Nazi, jackbooted scum thugs, are identified by name and organization. That's exactly what they are. Wait till you hear this. These guys were taking a trip on a bus. They left California to go to Las Vegas. In the middle of the desert, they were surrounded by, quote, law enforcement, end quote, who instead of waiting for the bus to stop or meeting the bus at its destination, endangered the lives of everybody on the bus by throwing out a chain that had spikes all over it and blowing out the tires of the bus on the highway without any warning, without signaling the bus to stop. Nothing at all. And here is the testimony of one of the people who were on the bus, and I quote, "Here's a sample of what your jackbooted buddies are doing. Joe, defend them all you want." Being one of the so-called idiots who was on the bus, which was stopped for hijacking and transporting automatic firearms, I will now set the record straight. First off, my team from ABC Paintball Supply, the guys from Carter Machine, and a few guys from Combat Simulations in Hawaii set out on a 2-week tour of Canada, in which we were to hit stock class tournaments in Saskatoon and Edmonton. We left Los Angeles on Wednesday afternoon en route to Las Vegas for a night of gambling. 1.5 hours later, 3 tires on our bus were blown out by SWAT team members using a chain with spikes which was tossed across the highway. Our bus subsequently pulled over to the shoulder and was immediately surrounded by SWAT team members with automatic MP5s and snipers perched atop the surrounding hills with .308 rifles. We were taken off the bus, handcuffed, and forced to sit on the hot pavement. Temperatures at the time were 115 degrees, while agents and dogs searched the bus for over 6 hours. Until the very end, no one would tell us why we were stopped. Later we learned they had received a tip that we were illegally transporting 600 automatic weapons. The papers reported that the police had seen us waving guns around inside the bus and that they thought we were hijackers. Bullshit. The police found nothing. Zip nothing. No guns were inside the bus. All the guns were paintball guns, and they were taken on the trip. They were stored properly in the bus storage compartment underneath the bus, which could not be accessed by any of the passengers, and we had no access to such compartment at all. Once they saw that nothing was to be found, the police hid their badges. They hid their badges. They hid their badges. These big, macho, brave Gestapo, Nazi, jackbooted thugs, wearing their ski masks and their Kevlar vests and their black uniforms, hid their badges and refused to give anyone any information. The interior of the bus was badly damaged by these idiots who disassembled it. All occupants of the bus were badly sunburned and had burns from the hot pavement on their buttocks and knees. Paint guns and personal belongings of all occupants were damaged, but no officer remained behind to file reports with. One federal agent gave us her business card, but when Jessica Sparks tried to contact her, the address was wrong. The phone number was disconnected, but the name was right. However, no calls would be returned. We were given nothing to drink for the duration of the event. Our lives were endangered when the tires of the bus, which was traveling about 65 miles per hour, were blown out. And from what I've seen of buses traveling along that highway, I'd say 65 is a conservative estimate. It's probably more like 75 or 80. In fact, one SWAT team member stated that they made a big mistake by blowing the tires. The chain with spikes was to be set up 7 miles down the road in case the bus did not pull over. I could go on and on about this incident, but this is the condensed version. If you think this could never happen to you, you are dead wrong. I had a red dot on my chest, and had the player decided to fire, no paint check would have been necessary. Needless to say, lawsuits are being filed as we speak. This is from JJ at ABC Paintball Supply in New Jersey. And he asks, when is America going to wake up? When are you going to wake up? Any ideas about that, folks? Huh? Hid their badges. Oh, we don't need no stinking badges. Where have we heard that before? Banditos! That's what they are.
Dragnet. Their job to enforce the law and preserve the safety of decent citizens. Decent citizens. Decent citizens.
Oh, I bet you think that's out of line. I bet you think that's unusual. That's just one incident that happened over a 10-year period, and this stuff doesn't happen all the time, right? Huh? Yeah, especially you scumbag, jackbooted Nazi Gestapo thugs that are sitting there in front of your wife listening to this. How are you going to explain this crap to her, huh? I want to know how you're going to do it. Because it goes on in your town, on your force, and you don't say a damn thing about it. And a lot of times, you're right in the middle of it. Why? Because you're afraid you might lose your job. July 1st, 1994, Boone, North Carolina. The curator of the North Carolina Military Museum was the target of a BATF raid Tuesday, June 28th. With search warrants in hand, ATF seized about 20 fully automatic weapons, all legally registered to the curator, inert artillery shells on display, and about 100,000 rounds of small arms ammunition, according to the curator. Agents claimed the shells contained powdered residue, yet were clearly labeled EOD inert, which means they had been disabled by experts in the military. EOD means explosive ordnance disposal. Agents also claimed that the ammunition could have been stolen from the military. Curator Greg Prost told NRA Public Affairs that he holds a Class 3 and a destructive device manufacturing license. So even if they weren't inert, it was perfectly legal for him to have these things. It's a museum. They're on public display. They were all properly registered, properly disabled, all within the law. Proust noted that the ATF's computer printout of the Class 3 firearms he had registered was inaccurate and said the agents did not know how to identify some of the firearms in question, and this isn't unusual either. The small arms ammo was stored in a storage building adjacent to the museum. Once the agents noted the extent of the ammo, they called the press. Oh, we really blew it in Waco, but we're going to get some good press here, man. We caught this guy with all this stuff, and man, this is going to make us look good. You stupid jerks. I just can't believe the mentality of these people. Where do they find them? Is somebody patrolling the back alleys looking for kids playing in trash cans or something? They call the press. Parroting comments made by the agents, local reporters said an explosion of the ammo cache could have caused a crater a half-mile wide. Later, news reports expanded the crater potential to a mile wide. Is this some kind of joke or something? 4,000 pounds of fertilizer and diesel fuel couldn't even make a crater larger in diameter than 20 feet in Oklahoma City. The agents came across an RPG launcher. For those of you who never fought against the communists, that's a rocket-propelled grenade. Inert, that means disabled, incapable of being used, according to the law, with operating devices welded, and allowed a member of the news crew to shoulder it while videotaping, quote, "This is the kind of communist bloc weaponry that prompted the raid," an agent told the press. Now bear in mind, this is a military museum. They got them all across the country. Is your museum next? How about the Georgia Patton Museum down there on I don't know if it's Highway 10 or Highway 40. But I do know, I think it's Highway 10, isn't it? I do know it's a very nice museum, and I actually met General Doolittle there when they had their grand opening. General Jimmy Doolittle was there, the man that led the raid of the bombing of Tokyo off of carriers with B-25 bombers. Are they going to raid that next? I mean, they got tanks. They got real tanks there. And lots of them. The seizure was the result of an ongoing investigation for 3 years. Can you imagine these boobs? Talk about Inspector Clouseau. Where's Peter Sellers when we need him? This is a museum. They had to investigate for 3 years. My God, they could have walked in there with a notebook, toured the place for an hour, and listed everything and categorized it and everything. They could have taken pictures. But no, these great criminal investigators took 3 years. Oh, boy.
My name's Friday. I carry a badge. My name's Friday. I carry a badge. My name's Friday. I carry a badge. Hey, Chihuahua!
Now just lay down there on the couch, Friday, and tell me about your childhood. Oh, have you heard the latest, folks? The murderer, the FBI sniper, the murderer, Lon Horiuchi, who didn't even think twice about Vicki Weaver's rights, or Randy Weaver's rights, when he shot Randy Weaver in the shoulder and shot Vicki Weaver in the head while she was holding her small baby daughter in her arms and killed her, murdered her. He didn't think about her rights or Randy Weaver's rights, but this scum-faced, puke-mouthed, Nazi Gestapo, jackbooted, murdering thug won't be testifying at the Senate hearings into the 11-day standoff at Ruby Ridge because he might be facing potential criminal charges and he doesn't want to testify against himself. FBI sniper. Now, who in their right mind, who but a deranged individual would even want to be a sniper? These are things you don't do unless you're forced to, ladies and gentlemen. Unless you absolutely have to kill somebody, you don't set out to do it. This is a guy who wanted to do it, trained to do it. It was his job, and he couldn't wait to pull that trigger. Fellow snipers said that they refused the order to shoot on sight because it was wrong, but not old Lon Horiuchi. And now he don't want anybody to infringe upon his rights. Well, I don't think Mr. Lon Horiuchi ought to have any rights, period. I think he's a murderer. That's what I think. That's what a lot of other people think, too, folks.
Dragnet, their job to enforce the law and preserve the safety of decent citizens. Decent citizens.
Yeah, these people are nice guys, protecting us, upholding the law. Is that what you really believe? Well, if it is, you've been conned. Very few of them are. There are a few good police officers out there, but only a very few, ladies and gentlemen. You see, the few speak up. The few press charges against those that they see breaking the law and destroying the Constitution. And they object and they write letters about what their supervisors are ordering them to do. And you know what happens to them? They get fired. That's why there's not very many. And they're going to continue to get fired until we do something about it. And tonight, I'm doing something about it. St. John's, Arizona. Little small town in east central Arizona. Nice guys on that police force. Nice guys in the sheriff's department. I happen to know that Sheriff Lee is a nice guy. I think in my heart that Bruce Overton is a nice chief of police. But you had one ex-police officer, Tim Lesperance, and another police officer, Officer Graham, who actually used his own daughter to frame one of my associates. That's child abuse. They broke the law. They're scum. And I'm never going to forget it. And there is going to be an investigation. This is the Officer Graham who, when I was introduced to him, told me that he was a real patriot and really, really appreciated the job that we were doing. Nice guys, huh? Could have put Bart away for 40 years. He's a young man. That would have been most of his life. And I'm supposed to forget about it? Not on your life. Not ever will I forget about it. And I'm not going to let anybody else forget about it either. Want to know the real reason Veritas only comes out once a month now? Because of what they did. We lost Bart. We can't do the work that we could do when Bart was here. It almost destroyed the paper because Mike almost left too. I sat down and had a heart-to-heart talk with Mike, and he agreed to stay. But it's not just here. It's everywhere. On April 28th, Scott Bryant, a 29-year-old Beaver Dam, Wisconsin resident, was living peacefully in his home when Dodge County Sheriff deputies suddenly smashed their way through the door and shot Scott to death on the spot. Scott was unarmed. There was no gun in the entire house, and no guns were found. They did, however, find what they were looking for, 3 grams of cannabis flowers and leaves. Oh, that'll teach those ruthless flower-smoking hippies. We'll kill them for endangering their own health. No, we can't have these people endangering their own health and taking drugs. We'll kill them. Scott's neighbor, Ken Pearson, told reporters the officers, rushed in the door. They didn't holler. They didn't identify themselves or anything. As soon as they kicked the door in, we heard the shot. Scott's 7-year-old son watched his father die as they waited 35 minutes for the ambulance. Now, there is a real example, folks, that drugs cause violence. But only in those only in those police officers. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't smoke cannabis, don't have anything to do with it. But you don't shoot people for smoking pot. You don't kill people because you don't like them. You don't bust down doors without warrants and just shoot somebody sitting in the chair right in front of their 7-year-old kid when they have no weapons whatsoever in their hand or in their house or on their person or on their property. Only Gestapo, Nazi, jackbooted, scum-faced puke thugs do that.
Dragnet, their job to enforce the law and preserve the safety of decent citizens. Decent citizens.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Hour of the Time is brought to you by Swiss America Trading. Now, these are good folks. They don't care what you smoke. They're not going to shoot you. All they care about is, do you need some real money? Do you need precious metals? Would you like to have some non-confiscatable, non-reportable hard assets to get you through the hard times that are coming? And if what I'm telling you tonight isn't enough to chill you into getting ready, folks, this is going to continue tomorrow night. And wait till you hear what's happening to the Indians on Thursday night. There's a pattern going on. We're headed into a steep decline. In fact, this nation's going to disappear right into total anarchy and chaos, and blood's going to run in the streets, and it's not going to have anything to do with the militias until they recover from the first onslaught and begin to defend the rest of us. And that's what's going to happen. So you better be nice to your local militia people. You're going to need their help to defend you against these people. And you're going to need some real money, because when all of this comes down around our heads, and it will, ladies and gentlemen, the military is preparing to round up patriot leaders. It's no secret. It's all over Washington, D.C. It's all over the Internet. It's been on the radio. I wrote about it in my book 5 years ago because I knew that it was coming. And when they do that, the militia's not going to let them take their leaders. That's where the line in the sand is going to be drawn. And nobody's going to accept that funny money that you got in your pocket when all of this happens. So I suggest you call our sponsors and call them, because you should have some loyalty in your bones, not like that guy last night who wasn't interested in paying $10 for a tape of the broadcast that would have told him everything that he wanted to know, because he had every excuse in the world why he shouldn't spend an extra $10. He just wanted that satellite deal because he wanted a satellite system, and this is the best deal he ever heard of. Well, I remember his name. When I get his order, I'm going to send it back to him, because I don't give a damn about his money. I care about people who are ready and willing to stand up and draw the line and do what's right. Those are the people I care about. And I care about the people who are going to take care of their family and their neighbors and their community when all of this happens. I care about people who join militias and are willing to stand up and say, I am who I am what I am, and I ain't going to have nothing to do with what you folks over there got planned for this country. Look around at your loved ones. I'm going to tell you a lot more before this hour is over, and I'm going to tell you another hour tomorrow night that's going to make the hair stand up on the back of your neck. And when you finally understand, when it finally gets through your thick head, you call our sponsors, because they're the ones who brought you this information and a lot more over the past 4 years that you can never repay them for, so at least have the courtesy to give them your business. And while you're at it, thank them for sponsoring the hour of the time, because I don't think there's anybody else in this country that's got the guts to sponsor the hour of the time. So call Swiss America Trading at 1-800-289-2646. That's 1-800-289-2646, and get your hands on some real money. Some real money, folks. If you've never had real money, if you never felt it in your hand, you've got a real thrill coming.
Dragnet, their job to enforce the law and preserve the safety of decent citizens. Decent citizens. Decent citizens.
Guess what, folks? The VATF is registering your guns for you. Special Agent Pat Hines let the cat out of the bag on ABC's Day One about a week ago. Take that back, about 2 weeks ago. That the Bureau has computerized 60 million out-of-business gun dealer records. And that's a no-no. It's against the law. You see, these people who claim they're enforcing the law, they don't care about the law. They care about world government. They care about the disarmament treaties. They care about the United Nations. They really work for the International Monetary Fund. And if you got your copy of Veritas, you know a lot more about them than most of them know about themselves by now. You see, the VATF has long sought such authority, and there have been persistent rumors that they were doing this computerization despite Section 926 of the Gun Control Act, McClure-Volkmer amendments. It prohibits any system of registration of firearms owners or transactions. Also, the Treasury Appropriations Law has for several years prohibited such computerization of records, but they're doing it anyway. The VATF attempted to get that provision removed from this year's appropriation bill, knowing full well that they'd already done it. Hines was taking ABC host Forrest Sawyer through the old records warehouse and said, right now there's 20 million records here. We've already computerized 60 million. He said that on television. And if the ATF is found to have been improper in its actions and no one is disciplined, you and I are the losers. We already are. See, there's been previous instances in which the ATF has ravaged residences, leaving innocent victims in reality with little hope for recourse of damages incurred from one of their bust-the-door-down, no-warrant raids. For example, in December 1991, at least 30 ATF agents plus about 30 additional law enforcement officers, local people who lived there, raided Johnny Lawmaster's home in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Lawmaster, a law-abiding citizen, wasn't at home, and neither was anyone else at the time of the raid. The ATF, looking for an illegal firearm, busted down the door, ripped the place apart, including the walls, the furniture, everything. But they didn't find any illegal firearm. They left the residence in a literal mess with a simple note in the ruins. Nothing found. Signed, ATF. Lawmaster's attorney attempted to obtain a copy of the affidavit supporting the search warrant to determine whether there was probable cause for the issuance of the warrant. Guess what? The U.S. attorney asked that the affidavit be sealed. In another instance, and only 23 days before the Branch Davidian raid in Waco this year, ATF agents raided the Portland, Oregon home of Janice Hart, a beautician and a single mother of 2 little girls. Yeah, let's see what keeps your hair up, Friday. I want to know what keeps your pants up, Friday. What keeps your pants up?
Facts, man.
Arriving at home February 5th, Miss Hart found ATF agents tearing her residence literally apart. She says they also interrogated her for an hour before reading her rights, and she says she was not allowed to call an attorney. Not allowed to call an attorney. Her nightmare turned out to be a case of mistaken identity. After the ordeal, and knowing what she had been through, a Portland police officer quietly advised her to hire an attorney. Consider, folks. Consider all of this. Oh, if you can, you know. How can you consider insanity? What do you do with these people? Los Angeles. Two brothers report that police burst into their apartment and beat them in a search for a suspect after two officers were shot. A blitz described by former Detective Mark Furman in taped interviews with an aspiring screenwriter. The cops came with the billy clubs, and instead of knocking on the door, they tried to pound it open, Benny Morales said, recalling that afternoon in 1978. When they came in, they started swinging clubs. One burst into the room where Albert Morales was asleep with his girlfriend, grabbed her by the hair, and used her as a shield. The cop used her as a shield, holding her by the hair. A tactic Police Detective Furman described to Laura McKinney, who was working on a screenplay about the LAPD. They started taking turns, hitting me with flashlights and clubs from all directions, said Albert Morales, 37, a drug rehabilitation and gang diversion counselor. I could feel the heat of the blood dripping down my face and the back of my neck. Benny Morales, 35, said officers took him and two companions to a police station basement and beat them. When he got home, he found the apartment trashed, bloody handprints on the walls. Furman told McKinney about an apartment that had blood everywhere, all the walls, all the furniture, all the floors. It was just everywhere. A third brother, Michael, 38, says Furman and other officers punched and kicked him when they questioned him about the shooting several days later. The brothers say they have never been interviewed by police investigators despite an 18-month probe of the incident. They were never arrested, never charged, and had nothing to do with the shooting of any police officers. Oh. Thank God it's Tuesday. Hundreds, ladies and gentlemen, hundreds of innocent Ohio drivers are stopped each year and their cars searched because they are intimidated by police uniforms and believe they have no choice but to allow the searches. Even a citizen knowledgeable of his rights cannot always escape a search. If a driver refuses permission, officers often manufacture a reason to detain him further, then bring in a drug-sniffing dog in hopes of getting probable cause to search a car. Annie and I were stopped on the highway traveling through the state of Missouri. They brought out a dog. The police officer made a signal with his hand and the dog barked. He then said that the dog had detected drugs in our white Bronco. Drugs in our Bronco. Be a cold day in hell when anybody finds drugs in our Bronco, and if they are there, then somebody put them there. It wasn't us. And it didn't matter what I said or what I did. Once that dog barked after that guy made his hand signal that he had trained the dog to bark to, we were going to go to jail. Well, they searched our car. And if I'd lived in the state of Missouri, I would have sued every man jack one of them. I'd have dug into their past. I'd have investigated every single one of them from the day they were born. But I don't live in the state of Missouri. And it would cost me a fortune to do it. They put us through living hell on the side of the highway for nothing. For nothing. Now, they have the same problem in Tennessee. and their court system won't do anything about it. Most Friday afternoons in the state of Tennessee and at other random times, you will find a narcotics checkpoint at the 340 exit on I-40. Many people are stopped and involuntarily searched with no probable cause, no reason, against the law, against the Fourth Amendment. If you refuse to allow a voluntary search, they bring in a dog, and just like they did to us in Missouri, they claim that the dog detected marijuana in the car. Now, how do you disprove such a claim? They order you out of your car and spend an hour going through it. Your briefcase, your backpack, take out your seats, disassemble the door panels. They find nothing. One person was quizzed about why he had gun cleaning patches, two-way radios, and other so-called subversive items in his car. Subversive items. What do you think about that? Got you frozen in my headlights. It's funky, isn't it? It sucks. Sucks. And so do these people who do it. They call themselves Americans. They go home and tell their wife what a good job they did on the force today. Oh, honey, I had a hard day. Yeah, nothing but crooks and criminals out there. The whole world is against me and my buddies. Rowan County News, September the 8th, 1995, page 1, sobriety checkpoint nabs 11 during holiday by Debbie Gibson. More than a dozen people were arrested and charged with varying offenses during sobriety checkpoints held Friday and Saturday by Rowan County Sheriff's Office, and about a half-pound of marijuana was confiscated. Wonder how much it cost them for that half-pound of marijuana. Friday night, 28 cars were checked in West Rowan County, resulting in 4 arrests, including the confiscation of about a quarter pound of marijuana. Business was so brisk at the checkpoint Saturday night that at one point 5 vehicles were under investigation at one time. Narcotics Officer Dennis Worley said because of a shortage of Rowan County officers, 2 off-duty Morgan County officers volunteered to help. This will tell you the mental mindset of these intellectual midgets. It's not enough these guys got to do it when they're supposed to be on duty. No, they got to volunteer to infringe upon people's constitutional protected rights. They volunteered. Morgan County Sheriff's Deputy David Eitz and Warburg Officer Dwayne Bales provided help while brushing up on checkpoint techniques. Well, a little training here. Yeah, brush up on the techniques of checkpoint infringing upon people's protections under the 4th Article and Amendment. Let's just learn how to do this right, folks. In a 4-hour operation Saturday, a total of 61 vehicles passed through the checkpoint and 11 arrests were made. So they searched 79 cars and found evidence to arrest 15 people. I'm sure glad that I live in the land of the free. How about the rest of y'all?
Their job to enforce the law and preserve the safety of decent citizens. Decent
Thanks
forgot it's Tuesday.
Bet your boots. Just recently, ladies and gentlemen, there was a raid on the home of the Gadsden militia leader Mike Kemp. Why they ever let these scum take their leader, I'll never know. Listen to me, militias. Don't ever let them take your leaders. If you are left leaderless, you will be confused, disorganized, and chaotic. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do not ever let them take your leader. They took the Gadsden militia leader Mike Kemp. The raid and the meticulous inch-by-tortured-inch search of his house produced a couple of pots of planting soil, a few marijuana weeds, a flash suppressor, which they called a silencer. They called a flash suppressor a silencer. The composition of the raiding party was at once an affront to those who understand the reason behind this attack. You see, these Gestapo, Nazi, jackbooted thug police pushed to the fore their minions from the local and state law puppet groups to perform their treasure hunt. You know what they were after? They want the original film of the Good Old Boy Roundup. They want the original videotape, the original film of the Good Old Boy Roundup. That's what it's really all about. It's about paychecks and retirement pay. It's about reputations. It's about the BATF and all of these law enforcement agencies, including the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who attended this racist event and who call patriot militia members racists and white supremacists. It's about them keeping their jobs if that tape isn't confiscated. That's what the raid was about, folks, and they did not get the tape. They are not going to ever get the tape. Do you hear me, you Gestapo, Nazi, puke-faced, jackbooted thugs? Byron, California. This will really get you. Byron, California. Authorities seized a 6-year-old cancer patient after his mother refused to bring him to the hospital for chemotherapy. Have you ever seen what chemotherapy does to people, especially little children? Do you know that there are alternative health treatments that can cure cancer? Were you aware of that? Elena Duarte, 27, wanted to continue herbal treatments, alternative health care for son Adrian Chavez, and had threatened to run away with the child, the boy's grandfather said. She just got scared, Luis Duarte said. Adrian has leukemia, which came back about 6 months ago after remission. The grandfather said, doctors at Children's Hospital in Oakland resumed chemotherapy. But when the child's white blood cell count continued to increase, his mother took him to an herbal healer. The grandfather objected. A doctor called the mother on Thursday and told her to bring the child in the next day for his scheduled chemotherapy. She refused, and a Contra Costa County Sheriff's deputy and Children's Protective Services worker went to her home Thursday night and took the boy. A Contra Costa County Sheriff's deputy. I wonder what he would do if someone came and took his child because he decided what medical treatment the child would be better off having. The chemotherapy wasn't working. The white blood cell count kept escalating. The child was going to die. She went to her home Thursday night and took the boy. She was like crazy, the grandfather said. She even kneeled to the police and said, please don't take him. The child remains at Children's Hospital after receiving chemotherapy Friday, the hospital said. His mother could not be reached for comment. A court hearing must be held Tuesday to determine whether continued county custody of the child is warranted. Take my child, a lot of people will die in the process. This isn't a boast. I'm telling you the fact. Anyone ever comes to take my child or my children, a lot of people, and maybe even me, will die in the process. What is the matter with America? Who in the hell do these people think they are? Chemotherapy is torture. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There are a lot of other ways to cure cancer. Some of them work, sometimes some of them don't. Some of them, and I can't tell you which ones, work very well, more than anything that the established medical profession can offer, and some of them are herbal cures. And I'll have Michael Cottingham back on here as a guest to prove that statement. And tomorrow night we're going to continue with this because I have stacks and stacks and stacks of documentation of what the Nazi Gestapo jackbooted scum-sucking thugs are doing in this country. And I'm sick of it. They gassed my 4-year-old daughter in a hotel room in Phoenix, Arizona, because they don't like my politics. Good night, folks, and God bless you all.
Dragnet, their job to enforce the law and preserve the safety of decent citizens. Decent citizens.
Let's see what keeps your hair up. Let's see what keeps your pants up, Friday.
Just the facts, man. Just the facts, man.
It is the hour of the sun.
Hi, I'm Little Pooh. I live in your radio. This is my dog, Sugar Bear. He lives in here, too.
You're listening to the Hour of the Time, and I'm William Cooper.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dragnet, their job to enforce the law and preserve the safety of decent citizens. Decent citizens.
Well, folks, here we go again. Listen very carefully. You haven't got the slightest clue what these people wearing badges are doing to innocent people all over this country. And you have no conception of the depth of the well of corruption that they have sunk into. It's so deep, I don't know if it can ever be climbed out of. Roger Wiedner, former head of the Oregon State Department of Consumer Fraud, former county prosecutor of Multnomah County, where Portland is located, is currently, ladies and gentlemen, in the Oregon State Psychiatric Hospital, apparently because he knows too much. 75 days ago, Mr. Wiedner was convicted by Judge Dorothy Baker. I should say committed. He was never convicted of anything. Never convicted of anything. He was committed by Judge Dorothy Baker. Mr. Wiedner was in the process of charging the judge with corruption in a case involving the theft by various crooked judges of a $35 million piece of property that Mr. Wiedner was a trustee of. Roger has tried repeatedly to charge these judges, and in several cases they have just run out of the courtroom to avoid his charges. He's now been held for 75 days without a set court date in violation of the law. Apparently this could go on indefinitely. He has been allowed to talk to on the Jameson White show for 15 minutes a day. And this is only because they don't realize that he's calling a nationwide talk show just yet. He has said that he is now being subjected to some kind of medical tests involving drawing blood and injecting some kind of dye for a brain scan, and who knows what else is in that needle. He has requested that his doctor be present during these tests, but they are refusing. If he refuses to take the test, they tie him down and perform them anyway. Those who know him say that he is a very determined fellow. He's stuck with this case for some 5 years. He is not crazy, and the whole thing is reminiscent of the Soviet Gulag in the United States of America. Patriots are being picked up off the street all over the country, are being taken to mental institutions, and are being committed.
Dragnet, their job to enforce the law and preserve the safety of decent citizens. Decent citizens.
John Wilfgram from one of the adjacent counties was arrested last week by the Department of Justice and spent 3 to 5 days in jail. What are his crimes? Ladies and gentlemen, he is a constitutional defender, a member of the Fully Informed Jury Association, the first to join the El Dorado County militia. He represents a nurse from Louisiana. Her name is Connie. Seventh-day Adventist and militia member who signed a complaint for redress of grievances as a witness attesting to the validity of a friend's signature. When ordered to produce Connie by the Department of Justice, he requested a copy of a warrant and told the female Department of Justice officer there was a violation of Connie's First Amendment rights. 40 seconds of silence and a click on the other end of the phone. The warrants were produced subsequent to the arrest by the Department of Justice. What we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is the attempt to commit crimes by the court against these people who are doing nothing but performing their rights protected by the Constitution in the pursuance of justice. And they're in jail. For what? For what? For signing a complaint for redress of grievances as a witness attesting to the validity of a friend's signature, and the other for representing the person who did it.
I hear you,
Briefly put, ladies and gentlemen, its agenda is that the federal government has created a mass of unconstitutional agencies that are prying into and seeking to control every single aspect of American life, and this is spread down even through the state, through the county, and into the local law enforcement agencies. And that the original balance of the Constitution must be restored if the country is to remain free. There's a war on drugs. You've heard about it. I know you've heard about it. A war on drugs. Yet the drugs are never stopped. And each day we find more and more of our liberties are gone in this war on drugs. Now, what do you suppose that means? You think it's really a war on drugs? Or really a war on liberty? Prohibition, folks, is in itself a violation of rights. And if you don't understand that, you don't understand liberty. But its failure has encouraged the federal government to other more serious violations in their claim to be performing a war on drugs, when in fact, it's a war upon the Bill of Rights. Perhaps the most obvious of these is civil asset forfeiture. This allows, folks, the authorities to freeze the allegedly tainted assets of an accused person prior to conviction. And until not too long ago, they didn't freeze it. They just took everything. And within 24 hours, in many instances, it was auctioned off. In any case, nobody who ever had their assets seized ever got them back, to our knowledge. Such assets can be recovered, they say, but only if the accused sues for them and can prove that no illegality was involved in their acquisition and use. But you see, if they have all your assets, your money, your property, your home, your cars, your RVs, you don't have the money to sue. And very few people that I know of ever have. No lawyer will talk to you if you don't have assets. They don't like to go against Uncle Sam, even when you do. Since this is a civil process, there is no constitutional bar to reversing the burden of proof. Do you understand? Moreover, since all assets may be frozen, the legal assistance needed to recover them is unattainable. Even otherwise, an American litigant must pay his own cost regardless of who wins. If it's long and drawn out, the cost to get your assets back could eat up the value of all the assets returned, if any were ever returned. The effect, ladies and gentlemen, is that only a very wealthy accused who wants to recover very substantial assets can be expected to sue the federal government. And they know this. That's why they do it. For everyone else, forfeiture is punishment without trial, seizure without just compensation, all unconstitutional. But what do you care? You see, most people don't give a damn until it happens to them. Then they wonder why nobody else cares. Well, I ask you right now, why don't you care right now what's happening to other people before it happens to you, like I do? Never mind that a jury may acquit, or even that all charges may be dropped. Assets frozen are nearly always assets confiscated, and in most cases, charges are never filed. It is, ladies and gentlemen, however, the use of asset forfeiture that has made it a weapon of arbitrary power, and even your local police get a cut of the action. Anything seized is divided up amongst the agencies, police departments, bureaus, and organizations involved. Sometimes it even goes to the officers in some cases. Bet you didn't know that. Depends upon the law in the state and in the locality. and the particular crime that they're dealing with, if it's a crime at all. There have been many cases where property has been seized just because those seizing the property wanted it. Arbitrary power, introduced as a last resort weapon to nail Mr. Big, it has been extended to cover virtually every crime and every person, and there are now hundreds of federal and state agencies empowered to freeze and seize assets. The value of assets forfeited per year was $27 million in 1986. $644 million in 1991, and is now well past $1 billion. Billion with a B. And most forfeitures have nothing to do with Mr. Big. Consider this. In 1992 in Iowa, a woman accused of shoplifting a $25 sweater. Now notice I said accused, not convicted, accused of shoplifting a $25 sweater, had her $18,000 car, especially equipped for her handicapped daughter, seized as the getaway vehicle. It was never returned. In December 1988, Detroit drug police raided a grocer's shop, but found no drugs. After dogs reacted to 3 $1 bills in the cash register, the police seized $4,384 and the shop safe. This, even though over 90% of all cash circulating in the United States shows some drug residue. In other words, if they want you, all they have to do is sniff your money, and you're gone. In 1994, ladies and gentlemen, a California farmer accidentally ran his tractor over a protected rat. That's right, rat, R-A-T. The United States Fish and Wildlife Service seized his tractor worth over $50,000, closed down his farm to farming, and put the man in the poorhouse. He couldn't even see this stupid rat. There are proposals to extend asset forfeiture still wider so that seizures may be made on mere suspicion, and so individual officers can keep part of what they seize. This has already been done. They're already doing that. And that's all they need is suspicion. Somebody can call the police in your hometown and tell them that you're a drug dealer. And by morning, they can have everything you own seized, locked up, out of your hands. Armed with these powers, the authorities are able to do almost as they please with any person or group they dislike. They only need bother themselves with due process when they want to put somebody in prison.
Dragnet, their job to enforce the law and preserve the safety of decent citizens. Decent citizens. Decent citizens.
And, folks, there is the gradual abolition of the right to keep and bear arms. You've heard of that, haven't you? Gun control, gun registration. They're already breaking the law. They're registering guns all over the country, and they're not even supposed to be doing that. It's against the law. They've already got over 60 million gun ownership records computerized. Contrary to received opinion, American citizens have no absolute right to own guns. There's a long history of control, and the federal authorities seem to be planning still more. That's their interpretation. The second article and amendment, the traditions and history of this country said the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And they have no conception of the resistance they're going to meet when they try to confiscate the guns of the American citizens. In a 1994 questionnaire, American servicemen were asked if they would fire on civilians if ordered to enforce a federal ban on firearms ownership. When this question was leaked, the authorities first denied everything and then claimed it was purely hypothetical. And the commander from the postgraduate school in Monterey, California, naval commander, claimed that he was writing his thesis on the subject and had just queried one group of Marines at 29 Palms Marine Base. The truth is, we have found absolute proof that at least 4 different groups of servicemen and women in 4 different locations were given the same questionnaire. And there's nothing hypothetical about the Lamplaw case. In May 1994, agents of the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and the Internal Revenue Service, I should say the alleged Infernal Revenue Service, entered and searched the Pennsylvania home of Harry and Teresa Lamplaw. Though the Lamplaws fully cooperated, opening safes and cabinets as asked, they were repeatedly threatened with a machine gun, and 3 of their pet cats were killed, stomped to death in front of their eyes. Their furniture was smashed, and papers and food were mixed and scattered everywhere. Mr. Lamplaw, who is dying from cancer, was throughout denied access to his prescribed medicines, which were emptied on the floor and walked over repeatedly. The reason for this search, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Lamplaw is a gun show promoter. Completely legal, never has done anything illegal. These gatherings are common outlets for anti-federal sentiment, and so he was targeted. Among items seized was a list of all gun sales assisted by him since 1988, and you can bet they're part of the 60 million registered on that computer database, giving the names and addresses of 70,000 people. Some of these people have since had their homes searched. Mr. and Mrs. Lamplaw have received anonymous death threats for complaining.
Said his name was Fricassee, the second Cordon Bleu. The third was Cacciatore, and the fourth they just called Stew. They could have been dangerous, having grown big on heavy water, but they decided they would live their lives on the side of law and order. Bad guys won't have it easy like they used to. They come with taekwondo and all the fixings. They're being kung fu chicken.
Still worse, ladies and gentlemen, the federal authorities have started to murder people who make too public a show of collecting arms. Arms meaning guns. At Waco, they gassed or burned to death well, let me put it this way. Over 80 people died in that conflict, including 4 BATF agents. They gassed or burned to death 67 adults and at least 17 children. In 1992, they entrapped Randy Weaver, another gun collector, and shot and killed his unarmed wife and child. Now, the child, the 14-year-old boy, or the 13-year-old boy, was armed. But he was shot in the back as he was running away. Randy Weaver was acquitted of any wrongdoing in a trial by a jury of his peers. And the hearings are being held, and you can watch them on C-SPAN probably as we speak. Lon Horiuchi, the murderer, the scum-sucking pig murderer, refused to testify to Congress and took the Fifth Amendment. This is the guy who didn't give a damn about the rights of Randy Weaver or his wife or his family, or what he did to the minds of those children when they watched their mother lying on the floor, dying in front of their eyes, still clutching her small baby in her arms. They had to pry the baby out of her arms, so strong was that mother's love. Next, in New Mexico in September 1991, a small federal army composed of some 60 agents from the BATF, the Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, the National Guard, and even the U.S. Forest Service arrived in the living rooms of Mrs. Sina Brush and 2 neighbors just before dawn. Can you imagine? Can you imagine this happening to you? Mrs. Brush and her daughter were handcuffed and forced to kneel in their underwear. In their underwear. While these big, brave, America's finest searched their house for drugs and literally tore it to shreds, not one single illegal substance was located. No apologies were made. No repairs were made. They just left these 2 terrified women kneeling on the floor. And the only act of kindness that they performed was to remove the handcuffs before they left.
Dragnet, their job to enforce the law and preserve the safety of decent citizens. Decent citizens. Decent citizens. You got a lot of repressed feeling, don't you, Friday? Don't you, Friday? You got a lot of repressed feeling, don't you, Friday? Don't you, Friday? Don't you, Friday? Let's see what keeps your hair up.
Let's see what keeps your pants up. That's what I want to see. The Hour of the Time, folks, is brought to you by Swiss America Trading, the only people that I can honestly recommend that will do right by you, that I can back with my own personal guarantee, even though they have their own guarantees, and even though they record everything so nobody can lie about anybody, and even though they have a buyback policy, I still need to put my name behind whatever I do, whatever I back, whatever I sponsor. And I do. Always. You're going to need some protection. Now, don't take my word for it, folks. Read the last issue of Veritas, number 5. It was our special money and finance issue. And if you can read that and not understand money, then we've really done something wrong, and I want to know about it. Also, Stephen Jacobson and I in Swiss America Trading have entered into sort of a partnership here to produce more good, fine, educational tapes and information that will keep you on the cutting edge of what you need to know to survive what's coming. Do you know that approximately 60% of the manufacturing capability of the United States has left the country? Do you know that Ford and Chrysler, no sooner did they finish cementing diplomatic relations with Vietnam than Ford and Chrysler announced that they were opening plants in Vietnam? The average worker in Vietnam earns about $4.50 a week. Do you understand? I don't think it's really hit you people yet. America is going to become the service economy for the world. This is going to be the place where everybody comes to play. And you're either going to work in Disneyland or McDonald's or for a movie theater chain or an ice skating rink or something, because that's all there's going to be. This is going to be the entertainment capital of the world. Mark my words. And nobody in the entertainment business, except the owners and the stars, get paid very much money at all. Look around you. You can already see it happening. Take a good look and then call our sponsor, Swiss America Trading, and ask them how you can get your hands on some real money to at least protect and save a part of the value that you've worked so hard for all your life, and so that you can protect yourself and your loved ones. The biggest crash in the history of the world is coming. You see, socialism cannot have a middle class. Socialism has to have a level playing field, ladies and gentlemen, which means that all the third world nations and their standard of living is going to come up a little bit, and ours is going to go down a lot. A lot. Until everybody is on an even playing field. Americans are going to lose big time unless we can turn this around. These globalists aren't joking. And New World Order isn't a phrase that George Bush just pulled out of the air. So call Swiss America Trading 1-800-289-2646, and while you're at it, thank them for sponsoring the Hour of the Time. And you'll get VIP treatment just by telling them that you're a steady listener. 1-800-289-2646. Do it now. You'll be glad that you did. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, there will become a day that you will be so glad that you did that it'll probably cause you to just sit down and cry.
God it's Wednesday. On August 25th, 1992, August 25th, 1992, Drug Enforcement Agency, DEA agents, Drug Enforcement Agency, DEA agents, Drug Enforcement Agency, DEA agents. You're not going to believe what these clowns did. You have no conception of what they're capable of, do you? They invaded the home of Californian Donnell Carlson on the claim that they were looking for illegal drugs. Mr. Carlson was asleep at the time. He thought robbers had broken in. They never announced themselves. They were wearing their Ninja Turtle suits. Or is it chickens? I forgot which. They didn't yell police. They just invaded his home. He's asleep. He woke up. Thought robbers had broken in. Dialed 911. This guy dialed 911 and reached for his gun. And they shot him. Many times. Riddled him with bullets. And he spent 7 weeks, not just in the hospital, folks, but 7 weeks in intensive care. And he'll be crippled for the rest of his life. He's an invalid. No drugs were found. In October the same year, DEA agents paid a similar visit to fellow Californian Donald Scott, this time bringing in the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department for extra protection. Woo! The DEA needed bodyguards, so they got the L.A. County Sheriff's Department for extra protection. Against this dangerous Mr. Scott. Busting into his house while he was asleep, a deputy sheriff shot and killed him. Again, no drugs were found. He had no gun. He had done nothing.
Kung Fu chicken, big as a house, strong as a chicken. Anything they want, feed the chicken. 14 Kung Fu chicken.
Yeah, folks, anything they want is easy pickings. In Malibu, California, a 30-person raiding party of sheriff's deputies. 30 people. 30! Big, brave, macho men. Oh, yeah. We don't need no stinking badges, Mom. Federal drug agents and the California National Guard, the National Guard, broke into the home of Donald Scott and shot him dead. Scott, it turns out, folks, was a reclusive man. He was the only one there. He was the heir to a European fortune whose $5 million, 200-acre ranch was targeted by federal agents under drug forfeiture laws. No drugs or marijuana plants were ever found. But an alert Ventura County prosecutor, Michael Bradbury, did find that the raiding party had an appraisal of Scott's ranch along with notes on the sale price of nearby property. You see what I'm talking about? Scum-sucking, Gestapo, Nazi, jackbooted, puke-faced thugs. Thieves. Do you understand what's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Gideon Canner, a Los Angeles law professor who has examined this case, concluded that the feds thought Scott might have a wife who indulged in drugs and decided to see if they could bag a $5 million piece of property for the Treasury on the come. On the come. Scott, awakened from sleep by the sound of his door crashing in, made the mistake of walking out of his bedroom with a gun in his hand, thinking burglars were there. The military force got off with a self-defense plea. You're not safe. You think you're safe. You're not safe.
And folks, it's not burglars that you have to worry about unless you live in the poorest part of town in the ghetto. And you shouldn't have to worry there. But you see, that's the least place where police give protection to people. Every place else, they're stealing from you or killing you. Now, these mini Wacos do not make the evening news or capture the attention of Mr. Hunt and our much-touted investigative journalist, Dan Rather. Dan rather not tell the truth. Communist News Network. Ted Turncoat and his wife, Hanoi Jane. The work of some BATF and other government agents, as we can see, is indeed dangerous and more frightening than any threat from any other quarter. Louis Katona of Bucyrus, Iowa, I should say Ohio, concentrating on trying to pronounce Bucyrus, and I'm not sure I did it right, Bucyrus, Ohio, not Iowa. Mr. Katona is a businessman and part-time police officer. In 1990, ladies and gentlemen, the BATF raided his home. Now remember, he's a part-time police officer and a businessman. They raided his home, seizing his gun collection. During the raid, Kimberly Katona, his pregnant wife, was shoved by a BATF agent against a wall and suffered a miscarriage right there on the spot. A federal judge dismissed all charges and ordered the collection returned. But nothing happened to these Gestapo Nazi jackbooted thugs.
Dragnet, their job to enforce the law and preserve the safety of decent citizens. Decent citizens.
Well, our people covered this story. We had a man on the spot. Seems that in a local domestic dispute, some guy supposedly, this was what reported, made threats against his wife. She supposedly left the house, went to relatives and called the police, letting them know the teenage son was still in the house. All lies. Son wasn't in the house, didn't threaten his wife. As it turned out, the husband has a collection of firearms for which he has legal permits, but it seems like this fact made the cops decide they had an armed hostage situation. Except by the time they got there, the teenager wasn't in the house. He was sitting on the corner. So then the cops decided they had an armed standoff situation with a suicidal madman, with what one news outlet claimed was a drug problem. Except, folks, this same news segment then interviewed the neighbors, who to a person, without exception, all said they knew the guy well and that he was very even-tempered and a really nice guy and had never evidenced behavior like this ever. Not particularly the description of a drug user. The drug supposedly being used was never mentioned, by the way, because there wasn't any. It was stated that the police had no record of any previous trouble with the guy, who was described as being on a leave of absence from his job working at the water treatment facility at Yukon. And every family member stated that the guy definitely was not suicidal, and his nephew was shown on television as being really angry with the cops. His word, and I quote, was pissed off, end quote, because he claimed the whole situation could be ended immediately if they just let him talk to his uncle, that he'd be able to get his uncle to leave the house within minutes of talking to him, but the cops wouldn't let him talk to his uncle. Meantime, inside, this guy was scared to death. He didn't know what was going on. All he knew is his house was surrounded by armed police officers and ninja-suited creeps, and there were actually men in position with rifles pointed at all the windows. He was scared to death. In the meantime, the cops forcibly evacuated the entire neighborhood and not only cut electricity to the house, but cable access also. Now, it seems to me once the electricity is off, folks, that effectively cut the use of cable TV, so why go to that extreme? It was stated on the news that the cops wanted to eliminate his access to media reports. But what about battery-operated radio and television? And what's the logic behind eliminating the guy's access to media reports of the event? Maybe he could have understood a little bit better what was going on. And by the way, throughout this siege, this guy never once fired a shot. In fact, in the house, he never even once had a gun in his hands. He was described as in an agitated state. Well, folks, I got to tell you, if my house was surrounded by SWAT team, ninja-suited, Gestapo, Nazi, jackbooted thugs, I'd be agitated too. If my neighbors were forcibly evicted and my electricity and cable cut off, I'd be damned agitated. And I'd be in fear of my life. It's a big difference between this fellow and me, though. I'd definitely have a gun in my hand. I wouldn't want to hurt anybody, and I probably would never shoot unless they shot at me first. But once they did that, what in the world would anybody expect anybody else to do? This fellow never even picked up a gun. About 20 hours after this all started, it was reported that the guy finally surrendered, has been taken to a local hospital for, guess what, folks? Psychiatric evaluation. Oh, you guys think this is nothing? Just a few isolated instances around the country. Folks, I'm looking at a stack of documents 8 inches thick. I could do this show for weeks and never finish. Never finish. Listen to this. Trenton, New Jersey. This happened, folks, in Trenton, New Jersey. Turtles. That's right. Turtles might move slowly, but they've been put on the fast track in court this week. A Superior Court judge has been asked to determine where some of the shelled creatures will live and who will take care of them. What am I talking about? Well, on May 18th, police officers, and officers from the Division of Fish, Game, and Wildlife of the state's Department of Environmental Protection raided the home of Douglas N. Albert, Jr., 33 years old, in Scotch Plains, Union County, and seized 26 bog turtles. Yep, that's right. Big Ninja Turtle raid. Ha ha! Can't believe it.
Big Ninja Turtle raid, folks. They finally got it right. They raided the home of Douglas N. Albert Jr. and seized 26 turtles, which are on the endangered species list, but just in that state, you see. And that's not where he got them. And he wasn't endangering them. He was the only person who's ever succeeded in getting this endangered species to breed. The officers who conducted this raid were armed and even wore flak jackets. Can you imagine? To seize 26 little bitty turtles from one guy who had finally gotten this endangered species to breed so that they could be preserved. One of them stepped on one of the turtles and squished it because they're only as big as the inside of your palm. That's as big as they ever get. Albert purchased the turtles lawfully from a Florida dealer where they are not endangered and has been doing it since the mid-1980s. He sued the DEP in an attempt to get these turtles back. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation now has the turtles and is conducting scientific studies at the Bronx Zoo in New York, according to court documents. Now, bear in mind that these turtles are plentiful in Florida and are not endangered at all. But in New Jersey, they are. I can't continue with this story, folks. I just can't do it. It's 3 pages long. I can't do it. I am absolutely sorry. I can't do it. It's ridiculous. It is insane. New Orleans, Louisiana. You think the cops don't kill people? A policewoman was convicted Monday of killing a former partner and 2 other people during an attempted robbery at a restaurant. That's right. While she was off duty, she went in a restaurant and robbed it. Then later, when the people called the police and there were dead people there because she shot her own partner who answered the call and a couple of other people, well, she came back with the police who were investigating it, and the people who were robbed identified her. She was that stupid. And that's not all. That's not all. Antoinette Frank's case was the latest in a series of scandals for the New Orleans Police Department, under fire not only for allegations of brutality and corruption, but also for the city's murder rate, which has risen consistently, and several police officers are under investigation for being the murderers. The city of fewer than 500,000 recorded 420 murders last year. The week Frank was arrested, there were 21 murders. Since 1993, ladies and gentlemen, at least 38 officers have been arrested, including 10 in a federal drug sting in December. One of the 10 has been accused by federal prosecutors of ordering the murder of a woman who filed a brutality complaint against him. Another officer who remains on the force at a desk job is a suspect, ladies and gentlemen, in the murders of 24 people since 1991, including his girlfriend and several prostitutes. Now, I don't know how you can sleep after all of this, and I could go on for weeks. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking at all. What's happening in this country is despicable. And I'm not joking at all when I tell you you are in more danger from law enforcement people, from people wearing a badge, than you ever will be from a criminal. Right now, today, as I speak.
I could literally continue giving you these reports for weeks without stop. Good night, and may God bless you all.
Dragnet, their job to enforce the law and preserve the safety of decent citizens. Decent citizens.
Let's see what keeps your pants up.
Just the facts, man.
Thank God it's Wednesday.